When we talk about peace, most people imagine it as something external, quiet surroundings, no conflict, no pressure, no noise. But the irony is that you can be in the calmest environment and still feel restless. And you can be in the loudest place yet experience complete inner serenity. So the real question isn't what's happening around you, it's what's happening within you. That is why true peace begins not when the world becomes quiet, but when your soul does. And the soul only becomes quiet when it stands alone with the one who created it. There is a silence inside you that you can never access as long as you are dependent on people, their opinions, their validation, their presence, and their approval. Being alone with Allah is not about physical isolation. It's about psychological intimacy. It's the state where the heart detaches from the noise of the world and returns to its original design, its fitra. The fitra is naturally inclined toward peace, naturally inclined toward clarity, naturally inclined toward Allah. But the problem is that we bury this fitra under constant stimulation, endless scrolling, perpetual comparison, and the pressure to always appear a certain way in front of others. So the soul becomes loud, confused, scattered. And when the soul is scattered, peace feels impossible. This is why solitude with Allah becomes an act of realignment. It is the moment you let the dust settle. It is the moment you allow your heart to breathe again. You see, when you step away from people even for a few minutes and turn to Allah, something profound happens. Your ego softens, your anxieties loosen their grip, your emotional static begins to fade. That silence is not emptiness, it is healing. Because in that silence, you finally hear what you've been ignoring, the truth of your own state, the weight you've been carrying, and the distance you've allowed to grow between you and your Creator. And once you acknowledge that distance, you naturally begin to close it. Psychologically, the human mind cannot hold on to fear and faith at the same time. One will always push out the other. So when you are alone with Allah, you are consciously choosing to push away fear, to let go of the narratives of insecurity, and to anchor yourself in the presence of the one who has full control over every outcome you worry about. That is why those who cultivate moments of solitude with Allah experience a kind of peace that doesn't depend on whether life is going well or not. It's an internal stability. It's a kind of spiritual gravity that keeps them grounded no matter how unpredictable the world becomes. And the beauty of being alone with Allah is that you don't need to perform anything. You don't need to impress, justify, explain, or pretend. You simply show up as you are. There is no judgment except the judgment that heals. There is no rejection, no misunderstanding, no pressure to be perfect. It's the only relationship where vulnerability isn't a weakness. It is a doorway to strength. When you sit alone with Allah, you are not escaping life. You are equipping yourself to return to it with more clarity, more patience, and more conviction. The world will continue to pull you in 1,000 directions. People will still talk, expectations will still overwhelm, and responsibilities will still demand your energy. But the person who consistently returns to Allah in quiet, sincere moments has a center that nothing can shake. That center is peace, not temporary comfort, but enduring tranquility. So if you truly want peace, don't wait for the world to become calm. Make your heart calm by standing alone with the one who owns your heart. This is where peace begins, and this is where peace is preserved. Life has a way of breaking us, not always in dramatic, obvious ways, but in quiet, persistent ones. A betrayal here, a disappointment there, a failure that gnaws at your confidence. These are the invisible cracks that form in the heart over time. We often try to hide these cracks, to patch them with distractions, with people, with endless activity. But no distraction is permanent. No person can heal what only Allah can. And that is precisely why being alone with Allah is not just a moment of peace. It is a moment of repair. When we are alone with Allah, We are stepping into a space where our vulnerabilities are acknowledged, not judged. The wounds that have festered in secrecy suddenly have room to breathe. Tears that were held back, fears that were suppressed, regrets that were buried. They are no longer a source of shame because in Allah's presence there is only understanding, only mercy, only the chance to be made whole again. The psychological relief of such solitude cannot be overstated. Imagine carrying a weight for years, and then finally finding someone who not only notices it, but gently lifts it without making you justify its presence. That is what Allah does. That is what solitude with Him allows. The world may insist that you fix yourself before you can be loved, before you can be heard, before you can be forgiven. It constantly demands performance, appearances, explanations. But Allah is not bound by such conditions. He knows the fractures in your heart better than you do. He knows the pieces that have been lost or hidden. And when you turn to Him alone in honest conversation and prayer, He does not look at your failures as a barrier. He looks at them as opportunities for restoration. There is also a deeper psychological truth here. When life breaks us, it is not necessarily because Allah wants to punish us. Often, it is a consequence of living in a world that is imperfect, chaotic, and full of other imperfect people. But He allows this imperfection to teach us reliance, to teach us humility, to teach us the value of returning to Him. The more we experience the cracks, the more we are invited to repair them through intimacy with Allah. When you are alone with Him, you are invited to reflect, to acknowledge your wounds, and to actively let go of what you cannot control. This act of surrender is a repair in itself, because it stops the cycle of resentment, fear, and anxiety that often compounds our pain. Healing in solitude is also about reclamation of identity. Often, when life breaks us, we begin to believe the labels others give us weak, failed, unworthy. Alone with Allah, those labels lose their power. In the quiet, unjudged space of divine presence, you remember who you are meant to be, a soul designed for goodness, resilience, and peace. The cracks remain, yes, but they become part of a mosaic, a testament to growth and endurance rather than a mark of shame. So, the next time life's difficulties leave you feeling fractured, do not rush to fill the emptiness with people, distractions, or temporary comforts. Step away and be alone with Allah. Let Him witness the pieces of your heart you cannot show anyone else. Let His mercy touch the places you thought were beyond repair. This is where true healing begins, when solitude meets divine presence. The wounds we carry are real, but the one we turn to in solitude is greater than every wound. And it is in that truth that restoration, strength, and enduring peace are found. Remember, the heart mends not by avoiding the cracks, but by bringing them into the light of Allah's presence. One of the most profound realizations a person can have is that constant exposure to people, their opinions, and their expectations can actually cloud the clarity of your own purpose. We live in a world that constantly demands attention, engagement, and approval. Every day, we are bombarded with messages telling us what to want, how to behave, who to be, and how to measure our worth. It's exhausting, and more importantly, it is spiritually and psychologically disorienting. That is why, paradoxically, isolation from people, when done intentionally, is actually a form of closeness. Closeness to purpose, closeness to truth, and closeness to Allah. Being alone with Allah is not an act of selfishness or avoidance. It is not about withdrawing from responsibility or shutting out the world permanently. It is about creating a sacred space where the mind and heart are free from external noise. This solitude allows you to examine your life without the interference of societal pressures, without the need to impress, and without the constant fear of judgment. When you are not performing for anyone else, You start to see more clearly who you are, what you truly value, and what your soul is longing for. Think about it this way. When you are constantly surrounded by people, your attention is fragmented. You are absorbing their anxieties, their expectations, their judgments, often unconsciously. Your decisions, your emotions, and even your sense of identity become influenced by forces outside yourself. But when you step away and spend time alone with Allah, you remove those distortions. You create a mental and spiritual environment where your own thoughts, feelings, and desires can surface and be examined honestly. This is how purpose begins to emerge. The clarity that comes from solitude is not theoretical, it is deeply practical. It informs your actions, your choices, and even your relationships, because they are now rooted in self-knowledge rather than imitation. Isolation with Allah also teaches the mind to prioritize what truly matters. In our modern lives, so much of what we chase is ephemeral: recognition, status, comparison, and temporary comfort. When you spend time alone in reflection, prayer, and contemplation, you are forced to confront the transient nature of these things. You realize that no amount of human approval or material success can satisfy the deeper longings of the soul. True purpose cannot be measured by external metrics. It is found in alignment with Allah's guidance and in understanding the unique role you are meant to play in this world. Solitude strips away the unnecessary, leaving only what is essential. Moreover, this closeness to purpose nurtures resilience. Life will inevitably continue to challenge you. People will misunderstand you, systems will fail you, and circumstances will test your patience and faith. But when you have cultivated a connection with Allah in solitude, you possess a foundation that is unshakable. You return to the world equipped with inner clarity and strength. You act not out of compulsion or fear of judgment, but out of conscious alignment with the truth you have discovered in your moments alone. The wisdom here is subtle but transformative. Isolation from the noise of the world is not isolation from life. It is immersion into a higher form of engagement. It is a deliberate withdrawal that allows you to return more grounded, purposeful, and connected to Allah. It is a cultivation of clarity, a reclamation of your identity, and a strengthening of your spiritual compass. So, if you wish to understand your true path, if you wish to live with intention rather than reaction, start by creating moments of intentional solitude with Allah. In that quiet space away from the influence of others, your purpose will emerge, your heart will align, and your soul will finally begin to operate in harmony with the one who knows you best. True clarity, true resilience, and true direction are born not in the crowd, but in the quiet company of Allah. One of the most profound truths about spiritual life is that the deeds we perform in private carry a weight and significance far greater than those performed for show. The world tends to glorify visibility. The person who is seen praying, giving, or speaking is often the one admired. But in reality, the deepest transformation occurs in the unseen, in the hidden moments where no one is watching but Allah. There is a quiet power in acts of worship that are done in solitude, in moments where the heart is free from expectation and the ego has no audience to impress. These private acts of devotion are where true peace and tranquility take root. Think about it. When you pray alone at night, when you lift your hands in secret supplication, when tears fall quietly during a moment of reflection, there is a direct connection between your heart and Allah that cannot be mediated by anyone else. There is no distraction, no need to perform, no fear of judgment. In that intimacy, your heart is fully exposed, fully sincere, and fully receptive to divine mercy. Psychologically, this privacy removes the anxiety of perception, the worry about how others view your piety, your character, or your commitment. Your focus shifts entirely inward, toward the one who sees all that is hidden. And it is in this focus that peace begins to flourish. This principle applies not only to prayer but to every form of worship. Charity given quietly, without announcement or recognition, carries a power that public charity often cannot. Acts of kindness done in secret cultivate humility and compassion in the heart, because the reward is sought only from Allah. This secrecy is not about secrecy itself. It is about purity of intention. When the heart worships in private, it is worshipping for Allah, not for validation, and that sincerity becomes a source of profound inner contentment. The tranquility you feel in these moments is unmatched by any applause or approval the world might offer. There is also a deeper philosophical dimension here. Public worship often engages the mind and the ego because it is inevitably connected to social perception. But private worship engages the soul. It engages the part of you that exists beyond the material, beyond the temporal, and beyond the gaze of others. It nurtures an internal life that is resilient, centered, and anchored in divine reality rather than worldly feedback. The more we cultivate this inner life through hidden acts of devotion, the less vulnerable we become to the turbulence of the external world. We are no longer dependent on recognition to feel validated, no longer dependent on social approval to feel complete. Our stability comes from the relationship we have nurtured quietly with Allah, a relationship that cannot be shaken by criticism, rejection, or misunderstanding. And this is why the secret of tranquility lies in these private moments. Tahajjud in the deep night, quiet recitation of the Quran, sincere dua whispered from the heart. All of these are opportunities to experience the profound presence of Allah. These are moments when the heart speaks openly without fear, when the soul rests in certainty, when peace descends unbidden. Public acts may inspire others, yes, but it is in these unseen moments that the deepest spiritual cultivation occurs. So, if you truly desire a peace that cannot be stolen by the chaos of the world, begin to value the unseen over the seen. Seek the private, intimate acts of worship that anchor your soul. Cultivate a relationship with Allah that is personal, sincere, and unmediated by the expectations of others. The heart that worships in secret grows strong, resilient, and tranquil. And the peace that comes from this hidden devotion is lasting, deep, and unshakable. Remember, the most profound connection with Allah does not need an audience. It does not seek attention. It seeks only sincerity, and it is in this sincerity, nurtured in the quiet of your heart, that the soul tastes a peace the world can never provide. The door to true tranquility is not crowded. It opens only in the stillness of private devotion.